with set 8 being out and my health taking a turn for the worse, this is potentially my last deck profile in a very long time. I know a lot of you asked for Graham Grace, but you know, I'm gonna have to delay that as well because I really need to get this one out. My last and best deck profile, Majesty Lord Blaster. Hey, what's going on, guys? Ahmes here. Today we are back to cover Majesty Lord Blaster in set 8. Now, I know what you're thinking. There was no support for Majesty Lord Blaster in set 8. Well, there was, you just didn't pay attention. So today we're gonna actually cover the upgrades this deck has gotten, and you'll be surprised when I tell you this, that the deck is actually very playable now. The deck is actually consistent. The deck actually has a win con. The deck actually has, you know, advantage, all of which has never been all of which has never been unheard of. Never been heard of before, because I mean, Majesty or Blaster barely was a deck to begin with. So I've tested this deck extensively from my bed, playing a lot of remotes with a silly little stand table, as well as actually getting these cards shipped to me. So I'm glad to say that I'm actually back at my desk, being able to review this deck one last time until another, I don't know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Then I may come back at Graham Grace. I don't really know. So today we're just gonna go over MLB. I'm gonna link my previous deck profile for MLB in description below, so that you guys know that you know, I've done this before. It started off really bad, but at least now it's gotten a lot better. So at least now that I've set it out of the way, in the event that I get details wrong or I don't manage to give a deep enough explanation for any card here, and you'd like to hear more from me in regards to this deck, you can actually check the old deck profile. It's a lot more detailed, because a lot of the cards I'm going to skim over, to be very fair. The right deck consists of Wingull Brave, Little Sage Marin, Blaster Blade, Majesty Lord Blaster. I feel this is relatively easy because you know, this right deck, in the previous set we actually showed you multiple right decks you could go through, but we have reached a stage where you do not need to resort to multiple right decks. You can now just actually do with one, the best one, my favorite one. So the starter is obviously Wingull Brave, not just because he's the best boy, it's because there's an actual skill that requires Wingull Brave. Just like all the trolls that play Dran in their Greedon decks. I know who you are. We have Little Sage Marin. Marin has a really nice skill, 2 skills in fact. The second skill is more useful than you think. When rode upon by a unit with Blaster in its name, so Blaster Blade, or if you still wish, which I strongly disadvise you, but Blaster Dark is still a viable candidate for this, you can actually take a look at the top 7 cards of your deck, add a Grade 2 Blaster from among the top 7 and add it to your hand. If you do not add, you can call Wingull Brave from your soul. So it basically recreates your good old 2011 Forerunner if you fail to search. Now, the fun part about that is that it's compensation. No matter what happens, you are always going to be able to get a +1. You either directly plus to your win con for Majesty Lord Blaster by adding a Blaster Dark, or another copy of Ahmes. It still benefits you if you don't get it, because you can always get your hands on Wingull Brave, who is a 6k booster, and that's not something you really scoff at. So that's pretty nice. Second skill is during your turn, if you have 3 or more units, includes the Vanguard, he gets 2000 power. So it's a 10k booster, it's a 10k beater, as long as you play the traditional Royal Paladin style of deck. Nice. I'm going to mention that they are all from Royal Paladin because it will be more apparent later on in the video. So just please don't mind with me. I tend to fully show you how this works. If not, I wouldn't bother sitting here. Next up, we have my favorite friend, Blaster Blade. Blaster Blade has 2 skills. His first skill is, when placed on the Vanguard Circle, Color Blast 1, you can choose one of your opponent's rear guard to retire it. If you can't retire, you draw a card. The second skill is, when placed on the rear guard circle instead, you Color Blast 1. Choose one of your opponent's grade 2 or greater rear guards and retire it. Blaster Blade does not bully the weak. He bullies the strong. That's why he can only retire grade 2 or greater. So for every one of you who want to retire Falcate with this, yeah, I have terrible news for you. But moving aside, he's just a really simple way of removal. He's flexible no matter when you get him. You don't even need to use his skill. He's mainly also to camp around in exchange for Majesty, Lord Blaster. Majesty Lord Blaster is the main grade 3 of this deck, as you probably guessed. Lord Dravoff. Pay attention. So, what does Majesty Lord Blaster do? So long as you have Blaster Blade and Blaster Dart in your soul, this is Blaster Blade, he's from the right deck, and Blaster Dart, which you can put in the soul. He gains 2000 power and plus 1 critical during both turns. So that means he's a 15k body. Going first, this is amazing because he's 15k versus your traditional 10ks. Any other situation though, it's not really that good. The only real thing that Majesty Lord turns off is any form of 13k direct attackers because you're 15k, so it no longer harms you. Also, your defenses really stack up because it's 15 to 25, 25 to 35, if you have Psychology. So what it actually means is that your average jet attacks, which also follow the crest, also gain 5000 power. So it becomes a lot easier to guard in terms of the extra 2k nudging you from 13 to 15, but really that doesn't really matter. Considering the 08 meta, considering the ban list, you rarely get this number interaction, but I feel it's worth mentioning because it's the main reason why you bought this deck, right? Second skill is when he attacks, you can move one or both of the stated cards from your rearguard into the soul. If you move Blaster Blade from your rearguard into the soul, he gets to retire one of your opponent's rearguards. He's not stuck to Blaster Blade's claws of great to a greater. Majesty is a lot more ruthless. Everyone's gonna pass away. However, if you choose Blaster Dark, you actually get extra drive, which is why Junos here is the more preferential target for Majesty Lord. So you actually want to get this triple drive off as many times as possible. It is one of the highlight functions of the deck. And usually, if I was still, 3 days old, 3 days younger, I would say, oh, that's impossible. You only have 4 Blaster Dart. You search him out, call him, goes to the damage zone, goes to the drop zone, you run out copies, and you lose the game. Yeah, that's absolutely true until you see the deck now, because the deck now has changed so much to the point of virtually no return. You'll be surprised, I tell you. But I'm not going to hype it up for no reason. I should show you. Our grade 3 lineup consists of 3 more Majesty Lord Blaster for the main deck. Obviously, we play 4 copies of this is a Courage to, I can't remember what it's called. And then of course the last one is alright deck, Majesty Lord Blaster. So Majesty Lord Blaster, I don't have to state this again, this is our main grade 3. We want to play 4 copies because we want to get the persona right and loop the persona right. Over a long period of time, a 25k 2 crit 3 drive attacker in the center column is no joke. And considering that you can actually put up numbers faster for your turn 4 and onwards, it is pretty darn devastating to have a persona right. As a mechanic, you should know that it's pretty good by now. That's why the best decks in the format don't use persona right. Chrono Jet, Maha, Elder, Bastion Prime. Yeah, new Banlist guys. So yeah, that's why persona rights are really good, and that's why you should be playing them, because that's all you have left. And then of course you play 4 of this order. This order is really good though, despite the fact that some people say it's a downgrade from its V version. I actually quite like it. It's a Royal Paladin card, and its skill is you use it if you have a Blaster, Vanguard, you can't blast 1, search your deck for a grade 2 Blaster, and it's a hand. So it's a net 0 search for your preferential Blaster target. Usually it's Dark. Usually it's Dark. But you can search Blade too. Our grade 2 lineup consists of 3 more Blaster Blade in the main deck, and 1 in the right deck. This one gets tricky, so please follow. We play 4 copies of Blaster Dart. I like to flex that some of my copies are hollow. We play 4 copies of this. Primordial Knowledge. It's a new order. I will tell you what it does, don't worry. And then we also play 4 copies of Ardent Knight Dialin. Yeah, so I need to catch my breath. Let's break it down real quick. Blaster Blade, you already know his skills. You still need 4 copies. As much as I try to, as much as it seems like I'm trying to undermine Ahmes' point in this deck, he's still a grade 2 Blaster, 10k grade 2 rearguard. And that is just optimal stats for this deck, no matter how you want to phrase it. he's just good, you know. Whether in Earth or in space, you can't keep a good hero down. So he's always going to stay here. Until I put him in Alpha Premium and do a deck profile on that. And no one will watch it, because just like Alif, no one cares. And then moving on to Junos. Junos is, you know, the main guy you want to search for, because he really helps Majesty a lot. But what does he do individually? When placed on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle, you counterblast one, retire one of your own Rearguards, and then you get to retire one of your opponent's Rearguards. So it's a one-to-one trade with one counterblast. He's not restricted like Ahmes here. Junos is not restricted to grade 2 or greater. He can retire anyone, but you are trading one of your own Rearguards, which is a last resort, okay? It's a last resort. But his other skill is, if one of your Rearguards is retired this turn, he continuously can gain 5,000 power. This puts Junos at a situation where Ahmes cannot reach. It's a 15k beater. And then you may be saying, but you just said don't retire your own Rearguards. Well, it doesn't classify calling over. If you have a spot that you need to throw down the Blaster Dart, especially in the center, the front row units, the left and the right, you can actually throw down the Blaster Dart on top of, say, a Dialin, and then he also gains his 5,000 power, which is a -1, yes, but you need numbers to really beat. And this deck can go fast and early with the next two cards I'm going to show you. One of the next two cards I'm going to show you is Ardent Knight Dialin. Dialin is an encounter support for all of Keter Sanctuary, but legally it is my support now because Genesis has no space to play it and Phantom Blaster players are too busy paying 3,000 yen for a promo. So this is my card now. Legally this belongs to me. Please comment in the section how you feel upset that it's a rare. What it does is very simple. When placed, it can be from hand, it can be from deck, whatever. You Soul Blast one and discard a card from your hand. You choose a card with the same clan as your Vanguard and add it to your hand from the drop zone. So what happens is sorry. What happens is What happens is you need to choose your Vanguard's clan, which in this deck profile it's Royal Paladin. That's why Blaster Dark is not in this right deck, because he ain't Royal, guys. He's Shadow Paladin. Please read your erratas. And so you get to search your drop zone for a Royal Paladin card and add it to the hand. That's why I wanted to go through everything else first before dealing, because now it becomes clear what you can search. You can add your extra copies of Majesty Lord Blaster back to the hand. You can add any stray copies of Ahmes back to the hand. You get to add even copies of this if you need to search for more Junos back to the hand. And in a very, very strange and one of my favorite uses of this card, which is a secret tech that I really like to talk about, is the fact that you get to add Lil Sage Marin back to the hand. Because you Soul Blast, you can Soul Blast the Marin and discard, say, a card that's not helping you offensively anymore. You get to add Marin back to the hand. Now, if you call Marin, so I'm going to try and simulate that here. If you call Lil Sage Marin with Dialin, so you Soul Blast one, you discard one, right? And then you call Marin, you have 3 units on the board. Marin's already at 10k, Dialin's at 10k, and Blaster Blade's at 10k. So you already have a 20k column at the cost of net 0. You just discarded, say, a brick, an order, and you have a 20k column on turn 2. That is insane, no matter however else you want to put it. Considering the fact that you do not get to enjoy stuff like New Game, you do not get to enjoy stuff like Emmeline, you do not get to enjoy stuff like the main, this is pretty insane already. If you consider the fact that Key and Bedivere are also Royal Paladin, but they're complete trash in these series. So I'm honestly surprised that they were okay in printing this card for Genesis, but completely fumbled it in terms of who actually got to benefit the most. Me. And speaking of cards that were meant for Genesis that I've completely taken advantage of, is this. If you don't know what this is an order. It's called World Opening Primordial Intelligence. So orders are all hard ones per turn, so you can't play your 2 and 3 orders together. But I understand if you like to turn around and say, oh, that's a lot of orders in your deck, won't you break? Yeah, not wrong. So what does this one do? You Counter Blast 1 again. So Counter Blast is a bit of an issue, so keep in mind. You draw 2 cards, okay? Then you choose 2 cards with the same grade or less of your Vanguard and call it to rearguard circles. If you cannot call, you have to discard a card from each card you don't call from the chosen cards. So what this basically means is if you pay its cost, I have to draw 2 cards, right? And then afterwards, I have to call cards with the same grade as my Vanguard. So in this case, I'm going to say it's Ahmes. So I have to call, say, 2 grade 2s, or I can call a grade 2 and a grade 1. See, it's a grade 1, and then it's fine. The issue is if I cannot call, I end up discarding. So let's say I drew 2 copies of this. I'm going to have to discard 2 copies of this if I do not have any other cards in hand to call. Now, the fun part about this order is it's not restrained to the 2 cards you draw. It's just 2 cards in your hand that you need to call. So, basically speaking, as long as you time your calls correctly, you can't really backfire. This card is going to help you generate advantage, it's going to steamroll. And guess what? You can't play this in any other Keter Sanctuary deck because you have no space. Bastion doesn't play grade 2 orders. Hexorb has too many good cards from set 6. Thunderblast the Dragon has too many cards in general. Youthberg is too busy winning to play this. Tegria already has 8 orders to play, but you don't really play all 8. You have Revenge of Tegria, and you have the grade 2 double red order, both of which are integral to Tegria. So you have no space for this. And neither will you play this in Graham Grace, because Graham Grace is so busted at this point. This is considered an insult to the deck. This is weakening the deck. So who else can this card be used for? It's gonna end up being Majesty Lord Blaster. And it works because Majesty Lord Blaster has actually no game plan. So by forcing Majesty Lord Blaster players to play aggressively and giving them tools like this as well as Dialin together in the same day in a COTD, yeah, it's insane. And I've play tested this a lot. I do want to say this is not cope or this is not fake. Yeah, it actually has results in terms of grade 2 gaming, and there's more reasons why you will see in the grade 1 section. But in the grade 1 section isn't really that much. It's just 4 copies of Melcoco and 4 PG as well as 1 Marin in the right deck. The Marin in the right deck is already, pretty important for reasons I've discussed earlier. You can call it out with Dialin. You can, basically enable your entire turn 2 play of searching for Blade or Dark. And Marin is more important because, I didn't mention this earlier, if you're CB denied on turn 2, you can't play Blade, you can't play Dark, you can't play your Order, but you can play Marin because Marin is costless. So do actually keep in mind that if your opponent has a brief history of blasters or just has been playing this game for at least a year, he's gonna know that CB denying is not the worst option, but Marin stops that. Marin ensures that you will still get a game plan no matter what. So yeah. Your PGs are your PGs. I don't need to describe that. And of course we have Melcoco. Melcoco is a card from set 2 that people say is the budget version of Painkiller, but I appreciate Melcoco more than Painkiller. Here's why. When placed from just when placed, you Soul Blast 1, you draw a card and discard a card. Wow, that is really effective filtering. She does compete with Soul with Dialin, so you do want to keep in mind that this is an issue. It is, but on the flip side, you just need to know when to use your soul, right? I mean, scarcity is a real issue. Just know when you want to use it. Dialin's only used later on in the game or with that turn 2 Marin play. If not, you don't ever use it. Melcoco is more flexible because you just draw and discard. And then you may say a net 0 sounds horrible, but the net 0 saves you when you play literally a grand total of 8 orders. This is why I can get away with playing 8 orders, which is typically a Zorga style deck, because you can just discard any orders you don't see yourself using and just drawing a fresh card to help you out. And just don't forget as well that you have this card as a Royal Paladin card, which means if you make a mistake, you just pay another Soul Blast and you can just use Dialin and fish it back. Because let's say back then on your first turn, you couldn't really afford to keep a grade 3 non-shielded card in your hand. Maybe say 4 turns down the line, yeah, you actually need it. You can just fish it back and then play it straight away to search for your Blaster Dart. So yeah, Melcoco actually I feel is better because it also stays on the board and recycles the orders instead of herself. Painkiller, I'm aware, cycles herself, but if you retire Painkiller and draw another order, when you had an order in hand, you're only just throwing away 5k shield for more break. Whereas Melcoco plays against this, it throws your shield, it throws your orders away so you can draw. So yeah, honestly, if you want to play other cards in favor of this, like I have seen some people play Primordial Intelligence with Wayward Angel, the Youth Burn card, where if it's discarded, you Soul Blast 1 and Superior Call it. Yes, it's possible because Primordial Intelligence discards the cards you can call. Well, just discard your Waywards then. So it is an option. There is other options to play in this deck, but I feel Melcoco is the most effective for what we have. Last but not least, our grade zeros. We play Wingout Brave. It's our best boy. We play 4 regular heals. I still feel Archers is hot. We play 8 crit. We play 1 regular OT and 3 draw. Now the reason why we are playing all non-effect triggers is mainly because of the fact that we have Primordial Intelligence. Primordial Intelligence is going to make you call cards from your hand. And non-effect triggers all have a standard 5,000 power, which means that if you call them, your opponent is going to need an extra 5,000 shield to deal with a column. Whereas if you play effect triggers, they're all 4,000 power. So you're not going to get that punch back, so it's effectively just dropping cards from your hand. You might as well have just discarded it. The reason why we play Obaria is because you are already moving your front 2 rear guards into the soul with, Majesty or Blaster. So generally speaking, you don't really have that many attacks left after Majesty or Blaster conducts his drive check. In addition, you are early aggressing very fast. You're putting up columns very fast. You're throwing your Melcocos, you're throwing your Dialins, you're throwing your excess Blaster Blades and Darks out to fight the board early. An OT like Obaria instantly can deal up to 2 damage if you're lucky, which can swing the game in your favor if by turn 3 he's already at 5 damage and you have Majesty or Blaster primed and ready to go. So you don't need to play the Keter Sanctuary over trigger. This is actually the optimal card for Majesty Lord. As much as it looks like a budget option, this is actually a lot better. Yeah, and that actually wraps up this deck profile for Majesty Lord Blaster. I wouldn't come out here half coughing to death, blowing my nose in the background, if I knew that this deck was bad. I'm saying this in earnest confidence and not just out of meme value, that I feel that this deck finally has a fighting chance. I feel that most people do not really read the cards they are given, or at least understand what they have. And in set 8 with the new Banlist, I think that deck building can get a lot more diverse. I myself, when I recover, I'll be putting up other deck profiles for stuff that you don't really see often, or at least hybrid decks. I do intend to do that for set 8. At least I have 1 to 2 more ideas that I like to show. So if you like, subscribe. If I get to show them, I will. So yeah, I feel that especially for set 8, because the 2021 meta in terms of Elder and Prime are allowed to fight back against the 2022 meta with Abyssal losing 1 leg and you have Chrono Jet still dancing around. You actually have quite a lot of open space in the meta, considering you have stuff like Lucria, Maelstrom, Minerva. All these are big names coming into fight. You have Chaos coming back. You have Tamayura, who's a bit more consistent now. You have, your Tegrius. You have your Radilinas. You have, what's the name of the last guy? The one that's really good, but it's slipping from my brain. Okay, never mind. But you know the set 8 roster, it's not very wide. Yes, Graham Grace. So yeah, just keep in mind that there is a lot of decks in set 8, especially with other decks that were previously invalidated by the triangle meta of last week. Maha can actually make a decent comeback because people may just stop playing Youthberg, or at least much lesser. You actually have decks like Kyrie who can potentially come back if people just remember Eureka as a thing. So yeah, there is a lot of space in this meta. Is D good again? Is D worth playing? I don't know. And that's why I put out his deck profile. Because I just want to encourage everyone who's still playing D format, who hasn't swapped the V or P, that there is some chance that you'll still get to enjoy this format. It's not as far down as we got. The fact that Bushiroad was willing to hit Ebisu is quite insane. I managed to see Kidani at WGP. I thought it was pretty nice, but I mean, playing WGP wasn't very nice given the fact that it was literally just Jet, Youth Bug, Jet, Ebisu. So I'm glad that it looks like they are addressing these issues. I don't really like I don't like the fact that they address the diversity card for Jet, but didn't really do anything to Jet. But you know what? Time will tell. And there is the next Banlist in March. If I really don't like it, I just swap the V. I come at next Banlist. Thank you so much for watching. I don't know when's the next time I'll be talking to you guys. So please stay safe, everyone. Look after each other. And in the event that I don't really get to do a Grand Quiz deck profile or EVA or anything in general, Merry Christmas. Thank you all so much for watching. See ya.